The first question of the evening: where is the Ukraine war heading? A lot of confusion, a lot of peace talks, a lot of positions being taken ever since that time when Zelensky was kicked out of White House and all. But where are the other things are moving? A lot of issues coming up. I'm not going to find solutions for all that, and I'm not going to prescribe what's going to happen and all that. But we'll take a rough shot at it as to which direction is this whole story heading, and that's the uh, point I'm trying to make. Of course, on Tuesday, the Russian and the US teams are going to meet at Riyadh and discuss things out, and then we'll get some fair idea as to what the whole story is. When that happens, I'll discuss the whole thing in detail with Mr. John Helmer and Brigadier Arun Saigal like I did last time. But for now, let's look at certain pointers to where this whole thing is going. Right? And you have to understand it in that perspective. First and foremost, as per Ukraine, the war has a long way to go with Russia. But then Ukraine has gone towards Europe for help. A lot of European solidarity and all that. What does this photo tell you? Solidarity might be, but what is the actuality? Germany is in recession. UK, we all know, is a toothless tiger. It doesn't have anything worth it. France is in political turmoil internally. We don't know when the next prime minister is going to come. There's no stability. The complete EU is divided. Right? And Trump is behaving like a bull in a china shop. And Russia is waiting in the wings. Russia itself is confused. Some people feel, look, Russia is absolutely stable and it's got all everything, but I don't think so. Right? If it was, by then this war would have finished with the kind of military might which Russia had. I think Russia has made a lot of miscalculations. But let's look at it in a slightly different direction and see how things are panning out at this point of time. We all know that, USA has suspended all military aid to Ukraine. And Trump has said till Zelensky, demonstrate some commitment to end the war, he's not going to talk. He's not going to do anything. But he's pressurizing Russia to come to terms. He's also twisting Europe with aid or the lack of it, cutting off aid, all that. He's already cut off Starlink's, signals to Ukraine. The moment that happens, a lot of surveillance has gone out of the window, and Ukraine soon might be fighting blind. So all this is there. There are a lot of critics who say USA appears to be on Russia's side. But in my view, US might appear to be on Russia's side to finish the war, but is actually focusing on China. That's what the Chinese say. And we're going to talk of it. Europe is mightily worried because unke paas to hai nahi kuch. Okay. But let's look at what is involved in a settlement. That macro understanding has not come in. Or rather, I don't see it on the horizon. Might come out of the talks on Tuesday in Riyadh, but let's see. But in my view, there has to be a political issue which has to be settled. There has to be economic and territorial issues. These three are fundamental. And of course, there have to be some security guarantees and architecture so that this whole thing doesn't get repeated. I mean, we must remember, this war is not going on for the past 3 years. It's been going on for the past 10 years. 2014, Euromaidan. That's when it started. Then Crimea, Georgia, Crimea, and now Ukraine. It's a step-by-step process. The larger thing has to be settled. And we also have to understand, none of these countries can afford to go to a war. Their demography is on decline, including Russia's. They can't afford wars. In fact, they've all come to a state of exhaustion, and USA has come to the state of exasperation. They can't. No one can afford such a war sapping going on. And what USA is trying, and there's my view, they're putting economic binders across the border, or rather the fractured front line. Trump is getting Ukraine also into economic alliances or contracts. Same thing with Russia. Russia seems to be more amenable to this concept of economic, binders. Will the economic binders lead to peace? I don't know. I don't think there'll be a peace settlement, but some sort of, uh, you know, top surface peace where ceasefire might come in with certain amount of security guarantees. And then already Russia, or rather USA, has indicated to Russia that it might ease sanctions. And of course, like I said earlier, US is keen on investing in both sides. The moment that happens, an investment happens into Russia, US investment into Russia, and then Russia, some sanctions are taken off, and then the trade links between Europe, Russia, Europe, USA start. Automatically, that linkage between Russia and China will start weakening. It's a natural process. Everything, Russia can't sustain everything. Okay. Then the raison d'etre for a ironclad relationship between Russia and China also start going down. Okay. So, but all this depends what the security guarantees are going to come and all that. What will be the modus operandi of the territorial control over the territory which Russia has taken over from Ukraine? What will be the borders? Will be the current front line will convert into a border, or what is it? Or will it be based on the 2022 borders when this whole thing started? Or will they go back to 2014 borders? Something has to be worked out. Will Russia go back, even by some distance? We don't know. What will be the kind of a ceasefire you're looking at? $1 million question. But there has to be a ceasefire. Will that ceasefire make this border into a LOC like India and Pakistan? Will it be an armistice leading to a demilitarized zone like the 30th parallel across North and South Korea? What will be the issue of peacekeeping? So we'll talk of that. Okay. So peacekeeping, there's a think tank in Switzerland which has come out with an idea of the outlines of peacekeeping and ceasefire. What do they say? The first thing which is required between these two is to agree on a ceasefire and codify a ceasefire in some broad terms so that it is not repeatedly broken, and codified on the line at which the ceasefire will hold later. Maybe initially the current line, give and take of bit territory, some line will have to be codified and agreed upon. Then they're visualizing a joint military coordination commission to enable a military to military contact between Ukraine and Russia, and then some coordination so that certain things can be moved forward. Something like what happened between us in Eastern Ladakh. After all, it was the co-commander level meetings which thrashed out many things and made way for some kind of a pullback, disengagement, if we may. And what's happened in Demchok recently, we all know. Then there's a requirement here to carry out a certain amount of demining, because Russia has put in a lot of mines, especially in the south around Mariupol and all that. Then they're visualizing a buffer zone of at least 6 miles. That's about 10 kilometers. Okay, a 10-kilometer buffer zone to separate both the armies. Now, if you create a buffer zone, who'll monitor it? And for that, this group is, putting or envisions about 5,000 civilians and police officers to patrol it. Now, will just civilians and police officers be able to hold the peace? I don't think so. And look, it's just almost 1,000+ kilometer long, ceasefire line or demilitarized zone we are talking of. They also visualize 10,000 foreign troops to provide security covers. for those monitors. The monitors will be those 5,000 odd civilians and police officers. But a peacekeeping force has to be there. Now, this peacekeeping force will mandate it. What will be its composition? So, all this has to be thrashed out. But to each other's satisfaction. Will Russia agree to European peacekeepers or foreign troops? I don't think so. They've already said, sorry, we're not going to do that. So there are issues. Uh, will Europe agree to anyone non-European coming there? Who will be the common thing? All that. I think we will have India playing a role here. I mean, I don't see where no one will agree to Chinese coming. Though Chinese have said we'll come and keep the peace. No one's going to agree to that. At least USA will not. USA will not get likely to get involved. I don't think Trump is in the game for it. Will India get involved? But if India gets involved, what's the benefit for us? I mean, we have to visualize it, not go and get caught between those two people just because we want to be. We have to be very clear as to what we're going to get out of it if we commit our troops there. And what will be the mandate given to these troops to hold the peace if hostilities break? All these are questions which will come out. But there's another thing which is coming up, and I think that's important for us to understand. Suddenly, Europe is facing a situation where its security is being under threat. USA said, look, it's not only a matter of you putting up the money for NATO, you also have to know how to defend yourself. And they're in a problem. So they have to defend more on defense. Now the problem is they might have the money to defend themselves. They might find the money, deficit funding, jo bhi hai. They might even use the Russian money which is in their bank and spend it on it, right? Because that will be one of the last settlements which will be happening. They might do anything. In this game, I don't rule out anything. But do they have the capacities? After all, Europe has completely dismantled its defense industrial base. So, will it go back to USA? Especially now when USA is let go of them. So there will be a lot of distrust between Europe and USA. Will USA allow NATO to fail? These are bigger questions which are looming on the horizon, for which no one has touched, but Europe is alive to it. So in this, do we have an opportunity where our arms export can kick in? Do you have a way of making deals with Europe? We provide the industrial base, they provide technology. Are there ways to think through this? I mean, it's nice to say FTA. Ursula von der Leyen came to India last week, spoke of FTA. By the end of the year, FTA will be in place. All that fine. That's a normal thing. But I'm looking at defense and technology. Can India leverage this to get some technology for AMCA engines and all? Or we don't have to depend on American engines alone. Right? Can this say, okay, we'll revive we'll expand our industrial base, cater for your thing? At least in certain cases, I think there is a case. And we need to factor this in our thinking. Whether our military people are thinking like this, I don't know. I don't think with the MOD, because I don't see any thinking or any discussion on this from our MOD. And that's the sad part. The sad part is our MOD is not thinking. No. Okay. Then the next thing is, which is very interesting. Trump has reached out to Iran. He's written a letter to, the Iranian cleric, Ayatollah Khamenei. What is he trying? He's attempting to ensure that Iran gives up its nuclear arms. And all Iran nuclear facilities come under international sanctions, or rather international monitoring. Very bold move. Okay. If he succeeds, the China, Russia, Iran, North Korea axis will get hit. And China's influence in the Middle East will be denuded. That's one part of the story. Then the complete geopolitics of the Middle East will get, will go undergo a change. After all, if you go back in time, you know, Xi Jinping was credited with getting peace there, right, between Iran and Saudi. And at that time, 2 years back, everyone thought, oh, USA is out, new global order. Like now, China is out, Trump order. So what's this Trump order? And we're going to discuss this business of the Trump order, next week in CASA. What's the new world order according to Trump? And we'll see further in the week. Like I said, Tuesday is going to be the discussion in Riyadh. Wednesday, I'm going to have a discussion with Mr. John Helmer and Brigadier Arun Sehgal, and I'll put that video out because we are in different time zones. So we'll discuss with him the twists and turns of peace to Ukraine and what's happening and all that, and we'll discuss.